Okay, some people are waiting in the lobby. Let them, I'll just add them inside. I'll let them join in.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm joining in from the.
Does everybody come on screen?
Yes, they are joining. Just a second. Yes, Saturn is here. Joel is here. Edvital. Okay. Hello. Hello. Okay. I think we can start, right? Just give me a second. Pauline, your PPT, can we?
Yeah. Do we have more people coming on screen?
Right. We will wait for another 1 or 2 minutes.
No, I mean, we can get started. The people are still coming in. Is that right?
Right. Right. I keep adding them here. Yeah.
They're late. We'll let them off as long as they come in.
Yeah.
Well, as we're recording, we can get started, and you can do your intro, and Marty
No
can do
problem.
his.
The recording we'll always edit it, and then no problem.
Okay, so let's get going. There's Joel. That's good.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just start. 1 second. Let me just open up my slide.
There's Joel.
Hey, Joel.
Hi, Joel.
Hi, Dr. Pauline. Hi, Marty. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, Joel is, I think, first person to join in.
Yeah, I came on early. I didn't know what time it was going to start, and I went for I literally just come back, and my computer was not functioning correctly, but it's fine now, and I'm online, so that's great.
That's okay. We're going to get started, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Just give me a minute. Let me just open up my sheet. Okay. Thank you for whoever has joined now. And anyway, this will be live sometime. Hello, everyone, friends and Rotarians from all around the world. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. This is Rotarian Gitanjali Dhar, President of Rotary eConnect, bringing you greetings from our District Governor Jitendra Aneja and wishing you all a very happy Friendship Day. We are happy to host this joint webinar with Rotary Club for Global Impact of Rotary District 7680. Both Rotary eConnect and Rotary Club for Global Impact are a fun club where growth is enabled by mentors and coaches. Both the clubs don't have leaders, employees, or members. We have teammates, mentors, and coaches where coming to meetings is not part of our strategy. Instead, we function in tandem to good to the society as one family. With members spread across the globe, we connect globally and serve locally. I am happy to welcome President-elect of Rotary Club for Global Impact to have accepted my request when I asked her to speak on the subject close to her heart, harmony. When, as Rotarians, we want and expect our world to be a diverse, equitable, and inclusive a world, what better day than today on Friendship Day that we are holding this joint session for all of us to get inspired by Dr. Pauline Crawford. I request all the attendees to please keep your mic muted and we shall have a Q&A at the end of the session. So sit back and enjoy the session. Now I request President Rotary Martin Christopher to say a few words and introduce his club member, Dr. Pauline, and take this session forward. Thank you again, Dr. Pauline. And Rotarian Martin, please take this forward.
Thank you so much, Gitanjali, and for everybody watching this later in your busy day today, International Friendship Day. It's such an honor to have friends in the world. And President Lincoln said that when you think back on your memories, your friends really were the very best. So yeah, it is important. And I often talk about how pathetic and fragile each of us truly are. And I've had some revulsion expressed over that and distaste even in audiences. You'll hear the occasional groan, oh, pathetic. I'm not pathetic. And until you get to the hospital and have a friend visit you, like a Rotarian did the other day for Dr. Mike, Terry Awesome Miller came and visited Dr. Mike in the hospital in Florida. That's when you really realize like how pathetic life is and how fragile we truly are. And when a friend comes into the room and you're there with the shabby hospital gown that's tied in the back with the piece of rope, you know, and your buttocks is exposed and somewhat cold, so's your back, you know, you begin to realize how important friends are. And I went to the hospital. I'll just end today by saying last year, I think for 5 days, and I know Pauline did with her loving husband, Jim, for weeks in the hospital. And I was going there every day with my wife. And when a friend calls or Facebooks you or sends a text message and says, hey, what's going on? How is it? You know, it really is. I mean, there's only so much burden you can throw down on your family with these illnesses and things or hospitalization. But friends truly are like our family. And we're lucky to have such good friends like Gitanjali and Joel, because I see Joel all the time on these different events with WinTrade. So Yvonne is also a new friend of mine, as well as many other people with WinTrade. So I would like today to invite a friend of mine, a very good friend, Pauline, Dr. Pauline Crawford, to take over for me. And literally in a couple of months, she's going to take over because she is the first female president in the history of our club, Rotary Club of Global Impact. And we're so proud of her. So without further ado, Dr. Pauline Crawford, I would say from Las Vegas, but today coming from London. Please enjoy International Friendship Day.
Well, thank you, Marty. I'm coming from Brighton, England, not London, but in fact, I'm just down the road from Joel, who's on the South Coast, I believe. And Georgina's here, not on screen, but Georgina is one of my dearest, closest friends who supports me in so many ways. And you do, Marty, and Joel, I've danced with you. And Gitanjali, we have yet to get to know each other, but we will do. So hopefully more people will join us and we will have people watching later on, I hope. So yeah. I'm going to start with a few ideas addressing this thing that I'm really passionate about, which is friendship for sure, but also can we say goodbye to equality and hello to harmony. Harmony has always been my core value all my life. And it's something that I do believe in really fundamentally, that we can create the future we desire. And if that's through Rotary or it's through WinTrade or through whoever it's through, it's about how we have a conversation about what that is. Because I could say, let's create the future we desire. And my future might be different to the one that you imagine, or you imagine, Marty, or Chikanda, anybody on the call. So we need to explore what that future might be. And my passion is about men and women, and really the harmony and the friendship that we can have. So it is about women being friends and men being friends, but also all of us being friends. And in fact, a dear friend of mine only yesterday said, can you have soulmate friendships? And I believe you can. I think, as you know, true friendship is actually a soulmate situation. So whether it's men to men, women to women, all of us together, parents and children. But if we look at the world, friendship is, for me, is two-way. You can be friends with yourself, of course, but it's two-way or it's multi-strand. It's multiple. And I wonder whether women can introduce friendship as an enterprise creation and a work culture benefit. And how will men actually take that on board? Now, we've got two very wise men here on the screen. I don't know who else is going to join, but you two, Marty and Joel, I know that you really advocate for women. A lot of men don't, and a lot of women feel that they don't get their voice heard. So how can we be friends, not just with our girlfriends, but with all the men who are there in the world? And I've had some very interesting things occur to me recently around really allowing men to be positive masculinity advocates for women. And I will get to that in a minute, because women are the natural nurturers of the world, and relationships are about nurturing. So my quest, when I talked about this early in the year, and in fact, I know both of you were there at that time, can we really persuade the very hard-nosed men of the world that harmony is a good idea? We'll come back to that question for you guys. But really, if we want to transform the world through friendship, there's a lot of mixed messages out there. You know, he said, she said, all this stuff. I think everything we say, we always are misinterpreted. And when conversations fail, we get really annoyed with people and we start blaming and shaming. And so my question is, you know, who's in charge of when you don't feel you're heard? And even earlier when I was talking with Gitanjali, you know, in many countries, women really don't feel heard. And what does that do for them? They can't put the oxygen mask on themselves. So they start making assumptions and judgments and get angry. And I just think that if we're going to actually transform the world through friendship, then we need to desire a magical outcome. So what I mean by that is we need to listen not only to others, but to ourselves. Observe what's going on in this world. There's an awful lot of people arguing about things I don't think we need to argue about. And actually set the intention that we could create world harmony. And if we had world harmony, we wouldn't have wars. I don't think that women desire wars. And I'm not suggesting that you men want wars, but the warring side of the gender equation often comes from that aggression. So if it's time to rewrite the script, then we want to work out who's going to write it and how. So I want to put a proposal forward to everybody who's watching, is that we need to look at the future through a woman's eyes. This is not for women to control the world. Absolutely not. Friendship is two ways. So we need both parties. But if we look at the past as prologue, which William Shakespeare said in The Tempest, then we applaud the fighting for equality. I'm not saying that equality was not good. I think equality got us a lot of brownie marks. You know, we got the vote, we got in the boardroom, we a lot of women work, and we know that. But we also know that half of the world is women, and we don't have joint custody of the world. But I think a future different to the past is just very simple, like to keep things simple. We learn the lessons, we keep the best, we release the rest. But we need to have these conversations to ground what that means, because this could mean something different to me and to each of you. So if we look at the future through natural evolution, I think nature gives us such amazing examples. So I'm saying if we look at this road ahead and we look through the woman's eyes, but we also regard positive masculinity, and I'm the G100 Global Chair for Positive Masculinity. And what I found in talking to men about positive masculinity, there's a very, very good response. Because I think for a long time, they're not sure what positive femininity is. So if we put the two together and we create synergy, then that for me is a true deep meaning of friendship. And if we take mind flow to harmony, you know, there are very strong trees in the world and there are very soft ones. But the oak tree and the willow don't say to each other, we're the same. We say we're both trees, but we're different and we do different functions. So my feeling is that if we create the future together, and in whichever gaze it is, whether it's business or family or it's community, we need to create a new narrative. Some people get upset at me and say, oh, you know, that's kind of, you're saying that the past is wrong. I'm not saying the past is wrong. I'm saying that if we really put emotion into our workplace, which is what is happening with women coming to the workplace and COVID. So COVID has given us this huge change in our world where everybody's discovered that working from home actually could be a huge benefit. And that men, and especially I think some men, have rediscovered their families by working at home. So if we look at a mantra for this is core to everything that I'm about, and I think that men and women are about. The mantra to bring authentic harmony. And I'm getting a lot of good response from just the concept of authentic harmony, is to understand that I am in charge of my life. You are in charge of your life. And we're in this together if we actually understand what those pieces are. Now, the I arrow can sound like an ego statement, and it's not. It's about the, you know, when you put the mask on your face in the aeroplane, you've got to look after yourself first. And all of us in different we do it from a mental, spiritual, physical, emotional way. But essentially, if we're going to have what I call authentic harmony, we need to cease judgment. Now, that's really, really difficult to do all the time, but it's a proposition, it's an intention. So I want to be friends with somebody. I'm not going to make judgments about them. I'm not going to make assumptions. There may be times when I don't understand them or that's irritating, but I look to seek this harmony. So by sharing with no judgment, and we allow everybody to share, to contribute, we can flow to what we would see as a mutuality. Now, friendship is that idea that life is worth listening. Living is living. So listen and do not act on anything unkindly with intent to disagree. Now, I know that Marty and I have had a lot of conversations with each other and with Georgina as well. And, you know, can we disagree? We can disagree nicely. That might sound strange, but remember, it's not getting angry. So being true to myself, my perspective is that I arrow, but I don't do it to ridicule anybody else. And when we're truly in friendship mode, we don't critique the friend. We bonded. So we respect the moment, good or bad, with unconditional love. And I think this is really important, that the space between us is sacred. So when we have a value conversation about authentic harmony, we allow everybody's views to come into the space between us, and we seed whatever this field of amazing seeds is going to seed. And this is true on a large scale in our communities and in society, and certainly with Rotary, where the mission is service, but it's service through friendship. And I think it's so important to know who you are in order to know others. So the whole idea of this value creation cycle, and it's very simple. It's very simple. If anything in my life goes wrong, I stand back and say, what is my part in that? What is the I about myself? And what value can I give to tune into others and create the new dialogue, new narrative? And we all know that we want to be great collaborators, but sometimes we don't actually discuss what collaboration was there. Georgina was there for some over the COVID years. We got lots of people online to come and talk to us. And we asked them, do men and women do things differently? And of course, we do, but there are different types of men and women. So in order to understand friendship, I'm going to give you little clues as to what the types are. But first, just think about this. Every moment we can choose, we can take ownership of a relationship. We can take responsibility for it and put the energy into it. So you know when a relationship is not working, the energy is negative. When it is working, it's very positive, makes you dance, yes? And this was really interesting. This was just some words from my research. And I just want you to notice that in all the words about women, nurture comes up. But in all the words about men, there's no mention of nurture. And that's okay, because men are the provider and the women are the nurturer. Now, yes, you guys also do some nurturing and we also do some providing, but these are core fundamentals, like the yin and yang of life. And what I want to suggest is that, and this is a viewpoint of mine. If the world has been created in lots of boxes by men, and lovely men and not lovely men, we fought to get us in there on the vote. But if we look at the whole of the circle of life, of which 50% of the world is female, and we actually want to bring friendship into the workplace, into life, into unity, then I'm suggesting we start from a woman's point of view now. We've never done this before, and we need men to advocate for this proposition, which is why I'm so delighted that Marty and Joel are here, and any other men who are going to be watching this. We really want people to be on our side. And remember, I said this is not about women actually running the roost. So there are different types of women out there, and I won't go into too much detail, but when we're in friendship mode as women to women, we totally love and adore each other and we chat away a lot. But we are also different as well. And these differences were explored in our programs. And it makes up the friendship conversation at the table. Because you guys, and we love you dearly, are slightly more direct. Even if you're slightly indirect, you're more direct. So we're more circular. And the whole idea of the circle of life and the circular economy is very, very prominent now in terms of building a world which is much more accessible to everybody. You know, if 1/3 of the world still hasn't got clean water, I think we've got some serious issues to deal with, as well as wars in Ukraine and everything that's going on. We can't be arguing about the core stuff. Women and men come together in their beauty of differences. And knowing who you are in order to know others is very simple, and it's also very complex. So I'm not going to go into it more than that to say that we need everybody at the table. And so far, we haven't had everybody at the table because, you know, if we go to a corporate leader, male corporate leader, a big corporation and said, well, I want you to put friendship on your agenda in order to make more money, he probably would turn me away. But my passion and my company, Corporate Heart, is about actually doing that. And now we've got a lot of examples of companies and organizations who really understand that the mixture and the heart is important. And actually, that's why I joined Rotary. And not only because Marty persuaded me it would be a good thing to do, but I went to the international conference and it was fabulous to hear the energy that came from that conference. You had people from everywhere in the world and 11,000 people in the convention center. It was stunning. But the messages from the stage were about communication, about collaboration, about empowering those people in the world who don't feel empowered at the moment. So here's a quick guide, and I'm not going to ask you to do this. I want you to think about this. I use this with clients. It's very simple, and you can try it out. Even you guys who know a lot about life. I do this. Score every relationship. You have some relationships which are a real zero. They're painful, they're draining. And you have average relationships which are good some days and not so good other days. And then you have fabulous relationships which are tens. And these are tens, even if it's sunshine or rain. They're the relationships who stand by you. They understand you. They don't try and fix you. They just listen. That is, for me, true friendship. If we could have that in the workplace, and dare I say in politics, and that's a big ask, but you know, if we could have that kind of give and take, that understanding. So try it. If you've got a lot of 0 to 5s in your friendship score, take responsibility to look at them. You either sort them out, you don't fix them, but you allow them to be in your life in the right reason, or you remove them i.e. remove yourself. And I don't mean that in a cruel way, but on occasions we have to not be in a situation that's causing us damage. But I would say if you use the value cycle, you can actually change everything, because women are relational, absolutely, and we can be assertive and caring. The magician is a little bit more get up and go, bit of action woman. The sovereign is much more nurturing, pays attention to detail. And because women are very circular, we actually do a lot of this always and together. Now, with men, it's more linear. And, you know, we've got two wise men here on the call, but men can be strong and sensitive. But we do have some men who are very bullet point, you know, got to get action done. If there's a fire in the building, I would probably follow the ruler. The philosopher is the thinker-feeler. And he's, you know, I would say he's our Nelson Mandela. He's a very intuitive man, but and very strong. So I think the greatest wise men in the world, Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, and the Dalai Lama are my favorite. We can harness this power. We need the strong, we need the sensitive, we need the thinker, we need the feeler. We need all of these characters to create a friendship narrative. So in order to have a friendship narrative, and I will keep on going back to this value cycle, this is like a life jacket around you. I want you to imagine it's like when you're in the sea, it keeps you buoyant. If the community is controlling you too much in the wee arrow, it forces out your own sense of self. If you stay too much in your sense of self, it becomes a bit ego-driven. And if you stay only in relationships, it becomes codependent. So it's always in flow, always in flow. But the only person who's in charge of your value cycle is you. And that's why if we lead others, then we lead with authentic power. So I think if we could create an authentic power grid of human beings, men and women of all cultures, of all preferences, of all colors, of all ages, of all types and shapes, in that circle of friendship, we could resolve everything. But we don't want to become the same. We want to be authentic within our harmony. So if you imagine the orchestra builds the symphony. You need the strings, you need the percussion, you need the drums, you need all the instruments, and they all play different things to make the symphony work in harmony. They're very individual. The strings will probably say, oh, well, we're the most important. The drums say, no, 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 we're the most important. The percussion, no, we're the most, but actually nobody is more important than the whole thing coming together. And that's why the leader can take us authentically to an authentic world. Now, the magic here is that my authentic world might look different to your authentic world, and therefore we need to explore that through the idea of authentic friendship. It's not always the same for all of us, and that's really important. So my offer to you is to think about making friendship wisdom circles every day. And remember that the conversation is between you and the other people. Always difficult when you're on a screen, but when you're in company, just remember, you must know and value yourself. So not give away your power, but don't overpower anybody. Come to the table with your experience, not your ego. Contribute with no judgment and anger, but act without pressure to control somebody. We live in a world which a lot of bosses will say, yeah, but you know, I need action, I need profit, and why have you not done your job, and all this stuff. And we know that people, certainly in America and Europe, they don't want to go back to work. What's that all about? And then other cultures will have different issues. I work with women in India, in Africa, across the world, in Thailand and Malaysia, where I used to live. And women eventually have the same issue. They feel they're not heard, or if they're heard, the men are not advocating for us. So this friendship between men and women is two ways. It has to be. And my personal experience, and this was when I was in India, when I first met Dr. Habeen Arora, who I'm now the G100 Global Chair for, and she brought together 1,500 women. I'd never actually been in a space with 1,500 women. It was quite stunning. But really today, with COVID and everything that's happened, we're on a new path. And I believe we can see the world in a positive way. I'm very optimistic. I'm optimistic, some of my friends say. But it will be uncomfortable. It won't be straightforward. We will have issues. We will have times when we feel frustrated, wondering why people are not the same as us. But that's when we need to actually remember it takes time. And if we speak words of hope and honesty, a very simple adage is don't let naysayers in your place. If they too much, then politely and nicely ask permission to move away. But take risks and share risks and open your heart and love madly. If a new consciousness arrives, remember that other people may not like your new consciousness, but be brave and embrace it. And remember, there are signs everywhere. So much has happened to me this year since the beginning of the year, when Jim was in hospital and he was going to die, and then he didn't. And then I started doing this work on equality and harmony, and I met Marty, and he persuaded me to be president-elect. And I don't know sometimes what I'm doing, but I watch the signs. And I want you to think about what the geese do. I don't know whether all of you know about geese, but geese fly in formation. And when the leader is tired, that leader will just drop back and another one will seamlessly flow in. And that's what we can do. There's a lot of talk about what is leadership about. I think it's leadership is in the moment, being who we are. So resonate with your frequency. Whether you think you're a magician or a sovereign or a philosopher or a ruler, whatever it is, it's a choice. It's not a control point. It's an experience to start having a conversation about our beautiful differences. Differences are not difficult. The power is in sharing human experiences and listening rather than acting too quickly. We're all human beings and friendship builds on love. I'm sure you will all acknowledge that. And now for anybody who's not in Rotary, we have an amazing opportunity because for the first time in 117 years, we have a female Rotary International president. And as president-elect last year, she set the scene, but her mission is totally about all of this that I've talked about. It's about friendship. It's about embracing each other. It's about collaboration. It's about going out and actually speaking to people, being with people. And I think that we should honor that mission of Rotary, knowing that women are changing the nature of business for men in a harmonious way. But as women, I think we need to take that responsibility to explain what that actually means. And men may not see it the same way as us, but that's okay too, because we're at the table of wisdom and conversations that are open. So we share our knowledge, our experience, and our awareness of equality, but we focus on what's the value? What's the value that I bring as a woman? What's the value that this lovely lady, Jennifer Jones, brings to Rotary? And I know Marty will support that in knowing her and her work. It's already happening. Rotary is shifting. Rotary is becoming more relational based. And I think we need to be joyful of our similarities and differences. And that's why it goes back for me to that unified voice of the symphony. Even earlier when I was talking to Gitandali, she said that, many women in India don't feel their voices heard. I've heard that so many places in America, in England, in Malaysia, in Africa, women saying their voice is not heard, but we are speaking and we know that men are advocating for us. So it's okay. We just need to go, maybe step up the pace. That's what I would like. So step up the pace and really watch when energy changes and where we are recognizing each other and making sure that we are together, but different. Remember, I'm the same as you, but I'm unique, but we're all the same as each other. Sorry, I got that wrong. I'm unique, just like everybody else. So if you don't know about Rotary and you haven't been involved, then I encourage you. It's absolutely amazing to have this conversation across the world. The Marty's in East Coast of America, and Joel and I are in Brighton, Georgina's in Wales, and Gitanjali is in Bangalore. And I'm hoping that maybe we've got people from other parts of the world listening. We can do this, we can be more. So I'm going to stop the screen there, and hopefully there might be some questions. Can I do that?
Yes, it was wonderful.
I'm not used to this system, Gitanjali, so I don't know what's going on.
One second.
Okay. So my lovely men and women and anybody else who might be listening, what do you think about harmony as a man? I think I'd like to ask you two a question. Come on, Joel. You're harmonious. What have you done?
I think it's refreshing. At the same time, it's just so obvious, and I don't even know what is the debate. Harmony, another word for harmony, in my, if you like, perspective, is about balance.
Yes.
And beauty and balance. I see it everywhere, whether it's in nature or actually relationships, but also in the workspace. And when I work with children in particular, I try to engender that and make sure they're well grounded, and at the same time, so being aware of themselves, being aware of the ground, being aware of themselves, being aware of the space around them, and being aware of others as part of this whole process. And for me, that's the harmony, and that's how I see that. So if that can be duplicated on a much wider scale beyond sort of children, through adolescents and adults, yeah, it'd be beautiful.
Absolutely. And I think we've got two men here who actually understand harmony. So I want to ask Marty, what does harmony mean to you?
Yeah, can you hear me okay, Pauline?
Yeah.
Yeah, harmony, I mean, of course, is just everyone's getting along, everything is beautiful.
I think
Everybody is happy all the time. I had to learn the hard way that from watching a Disney movie called Inside Out, that joy is not required to create harmony in any kind of family. One of the primary characters in that movie is called sadness. There's another one that's called anger. There's four main characters in that famous Disney film, and it was, of course, they bring joy on in the very beginning, and she's blabbing and talking and smiling and laughing and running all around, and you're watching Joy, and you're like, yeah, this is, and then Joy gets a good lesson in life of that she is not the focus 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to create family harmony. And at the end of the film, you watch the whole family crying together, and sadness is all part of that because she's one of the characters. And it's just very enlightening. A lot of adults have never seen that movie, Inside Out, of what it takes to create harmony. And that, joy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week may not create harmony all the time. The yin and the yang, the positive and the negative, the black and the white. The whole universe is made up on everything. Molecules are positive and negative, equally charged. The entire universe, and you don't get to rewrite. It doesn't matter which planet you go to, you can't rewrite science and math. It is the same in every planet they go to. Molecules, science, harmony, black and white, the yin and the yang, equal parts. This is really what harmony is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Georgina, what's your take on this subject and these two men?
Well, these two men, I think they're utterly gorgeous. And totally agree with what they say. And I loved your presentation, Pauline. I think that you raised some really, really interesting points. And I particularly love the analogy of the oak tree with the willow, because we are all different, but we're all human beings. And appreciating and accepting those differences, and as you say, scoring our friendships, I think is a good idea to actually evaluate, where we are in lives, because our friends are an outer reflection of what is going on within ourselves. They are, they're an amalgamation of what we feel, what we're experiencing, but also we are an amalgamation of them. So if we want to make any changes in our if we've got conflict. And to me, conflict is actually a signpost that something needs to change, and it doesn't matter what that thing is. If you've not got harmony within yourself first, then you've got a long way to go to really resolve any conflicts that are outside of yourself. And to me, anything that is not harmonious is really a reflection of something that either needs healing, or it's a sign from the universe to say, hey, you don't belong here, and actually you need to go and find other people that actually reflect your inner being and ultimately become your tribe. But it really is an inside job first. I mean, there's no question about it. I think that you knowing yourself, and again, your value creation cycle, reflecting on know yourself first, I think is absolutely paramount. And as you say, it's an ever evolving process, and our groups of friends evolve. Consequently, they evolve over time as we evolve. So yes, it's all really fascinating, interesting stuff.
So, Jitangali, how are you doing there in the Bangalore?
Can you hear me?
What do you have any questions for us about harmony?
Yeah, can you hear me? What I liked about the presentation, Pauline, um, is the way you have explained that, like when two people, I mean, it can be any gender, like we have this tendency as human beings to assess the other person, right?
Gitanjali, you've got a bit of an echo.
Oh, okay. One second. I'll just mute the other one.
I had a question because Jikantali and I spoke about this earlier about women having a voice, and you mentioned Jikantali that in India women feel they don't have a voice in their own country, and I think that's something across the world. So how can we listen to each other? I can't do. You're muted.
Oh, there you go.
Can you hear us, Jikantali?
I can hear you. But is the echo still there?
No.
Okay. Okay. So what I was, what I love the way Pauline mentioned that, in
Whoops, you've
It's
muted
gone to
yourself
mute
again.
yeah. How about now?
Keep talking, you've got a bit of an echo.
I'm so sorry.
The joy of technology.
I think I tried to adjust it now. Okay, fine. So what I was mentioning is that, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was telling is that, it's always good to know the other perspective of not, like when we are two people. I mean, it can be, like a man, woman, or man, or woman. We tend to actually have our own way of analyzing the other person. Uh, I mean, these are my observation that these days, like most of the conflict or the fight or the unhappiness happens between two relationships because we try to overpower each other, right? I mean, we don't want to look at the other's point of view. We always feel that we are correct, we are right, the other person is wrong, right? I think one has to learn. It's difficult, yes. I think the harmony is when we overlook all those things and just have simple conversation of understanding each other on level grounds. Am I right, Pauline? What is your opinion?
Well, I think that our challenge in the world is this idea that I'm right and you're wrong. So I make it my philosophy not to say that. Although, interesting enough, somebody else might say it to me, oh, you're always right. But being right or wrong always puts somebody up or down. So it can be, well, my perspective is different to yours. Or saying to somebody, well, that's a really interesting perspective. However, mine is X, Y, and Z. But the world has been created on this very linear, I'm right, therefore you're wrong, and therefore we do it my way. And that could be from men or women. If we change that as a basic mantra, I think that's when we can shift. Now, I don't live in Bangalore, so I don't know your deep culture there. But in the world, we can see there's a shift, I think, between this very, I'm right to do it my way, to actually maybe we've all got a view that comes in together. And, I give you an example as part of this G100 global chair for positive masculinity. It actually started in Central Africa with the president of DRC Congo actually making a statement in the charter saying that he wants to change the way men see themselves in positive masculinity to eliminate violence against women and girls. Now, if he's true to that word and it goes out in a way that's not only the way he says it, but it becomes harmonious in terms of allowing everybody to the table, then it's a good place forward. We've got to look for breaks in the dynamic of what has been around for a century and a lot longer. And I go back to this idea that if women are half of the world, and we know that statistically, and in almost every age group, they're in custody. What is the joint custody conversation? Because we do certain things in our lifestyle, which is predicated by being a man or a woman. So it's very much about the conversations. I would suggest that changing the idea that people want to be right to people want to be, what's the expression? How do I explain that differently? They want to be heard. And maybe that is a particular female thing because we've had a century of feeling that we weren't heard. And that's why, for me, this saying goodbye to equality is not saying it was wrong, but it's about saying what is the value of harmony and what's the value of balance, what's the value of kindness. And like Marty said, it can't be happy clappy all the time. And that's why a true friendship understands sadness and joy.
Yeah, and to that, Pauline, I just would like to add forgiveness is a huge benefit on earth. And
Yeah.
Women can be encouraged to consider the deep intonation and authoritative manner of men, even when they're talking. Gritted teeth, and if we mansplain or walk over a woman while she's talking in the boardroom, don't shut down, don't give up, don't get all pissed off and angry. Just say, like, hey, excuse me 1 second, I wasn't finished, Marty. I was not finished, okay? But don't give up and take your ball and go home. Men just have a domineering, authoritative, combative, manner about them. It's ingrained in us with testosterone. And we do want to kill, assassinate everything in front of us on the battlefield. We've created wars across the human history of Earth on this particular planet for, I don't know, tens of thousands of years of men in charge, with endless death, disease, killing, knifing, swords, spears. It's in our mannerism. So we're so excited, honestly, to see the earth changing with women coming in and all of this authentic harmony that you're sharing and helping us to learn about. And We actually don't always know like how to best actualize women, how best to meet their needs in a corporation, because we're not women. Okay, so we want to, and we want to, but men need to actually be taught, not in a dirty, nasty way that puts a man down and strips him of his self, but we need to learn exactly what is it that women need. And sometimes it's physical needs that they need, and we did that last year with the World Congress, Pauline, with the breastfeeding stations in the corporations, and the bottle storage of milk from breastfeeding that needs to go in the refrigerator all day long. And we identified those miniature campers that can be purchased and put in. They get assembled and built and put together, where ladies can go in there, and it's got the little refrigerator in there as well. But there's other things besides that. There's many women who are not lactating. They're way beyond, childbearing years, or they actually are not beyond and they don't want to have children anymore. Whatever the situation, we still need help in learning how best to authentically create harmony. And we're all ears. We're all ears.
Well, I think the lovely thing is, and I'm sure Georgina and Gitana would, women are beautifully complex, and sometimes I think men just don't know exactly what's going on, but then sometimes we don't either. But it is about the conversation. It's about curiosity and investigation. And when somebody, a man or a woman, says something, and we think, oh gosh, I can't see that point of view at all, but it's a point of view, so allow it to be in that space. And when I did some interviews in 2018 of a lot of men, I asked them at the end of each interview, which was about men being men, I said, what advice would you give to a woman about men? And they all said, wow, that's difficult to think about, but thank you for asking. So basically they said, please ask women not to mother us, smother us, or see us as a threat, but just allow us to be the simple, straightforward, loving person that we want to be with them. So these were all wise men, and that wouldn't necessarily come from all men, but I think you're right, I think men are in a state of unknown.
What was that last thing you said? Don't mother us, don't smother us. And I couldn't, what was the last part?
Oh, don't see us as a threat. This was about the time of Me Too, and there were quite a few of them that felt that women were prejudging them based on what other men might have done. So that was really the comment. But it was this idea that they...
I'd love to hear from Mark Jarrett of England also. I mean, Mark is a kingpin across the world and invented over 200 WhatsApp groups.
Yes, absolutely. Well, but what I think is true is that there are commonalities amongst women about not being heard, but that's part of our responsibility as well, to explain to men what it is we actually want in a very calm, concise, intelligent, purposeful way, as opposed to becoming a victim or having a tantrum. So that's what I feel. I do my best. We can't hear you.
No, I said. I was just checking if Mark would be speaking. Marty wanted him to speak, right?
No, Mark's microphone is not connected, or is it?
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so at the end of the day, business boils down to people and trust. So what I've done is created and curated an ecosystem of more than 200 WhatsApp groups and created an environment where thought leaders and entrepreneurs from all over the world feel safe to engage with one another. And then the business comes later. So I'm all about relationship building in harmony. Going back to
Absolutely.
you as harmony, I don't allow people in the groups to talk about religion, politics, vaccinations, Trump, Brexit, anything like that is too binary and divisive. I like to keep the mood in my WhatsApp groups cordial and friendly, and that's what I'm doing. I'm creating friendships. It's wonderful, very rewarding.
Good
Absolutely.
stuff.
I'd love to add a bit in here. I think
That's
that
interesting. How do you manage to admin so many WhatsApp groups?
What was that?
So the new messages float to the top, and Nike's strapline
How
is
do you
my
manage so many WhatsApp groups?
as I was saying, the new messages float to the top, and I just deal with them one by one. So Nike's strapline is my ethos. Just do it. I deal with them. I'm like a DJ that sort of, some of the groups run by themselves, really. I don't need to do that much. I'm like a networking jockey. So I just make sure that people introduce themselves, that others welcome them. And yeah, I mean, some people think I'm a bit mad for running so many WhatsApp groups, but it's all good. I'm only just beginning. My goal is 1,000 WhatsApp groups, because
Wow.
there can be a WhatsApp group about anything. I even started one all about avocados as a joke, but then 2 people came into my orbit that are actually involved in the avocado industry. It's a huge industry,
Correct, correct.
and they're discussing some sort of mega avocado deal in there. There can be a WhatsApp group about anything. The more niche, the better. Tech is too general. But if it's femtech or fintech or agri-tech, you're much more likely to have a meeting of minds. You know, I don't know anything about these things. Biotech, for example, is way beyond my pay station. I don't know anything about it. But what I do know is when you get 2 or more people in the same room that have an interest in biotechnology, then you're more likely to have a meeting of minds, which will lead to a friendship and a
Yes.
possible transaction. Amen.
Yeah. I think that's it. Is to focus rather than sometimes the blanket approach is to target a particular subject or whatever. But that's what I said
It
in the
was lovely.
presentation. You know, all the words that we use, friendship, collaboration, harmony, they all mean something different to each of us. So until we actually get into that, and actually when we were doing magical conversations in Malaysia, which Georgina was there with me, we would mind map everything that was said, almost like documenting the open conversation. It was like seeding a field, and it would be randomly put on the paper, not beautifully, but then I would tidy it all up. And the stuff that came out was just fascinating. And then you're actually capturing everybody's views. And we had very different cultures around they were all women, but we had different religions, different generations, and it was just magical. And that's what it's about, is in an uncertain future, we've got to get some certainty by sharing specific connections and making them work and not doing everything. So
Thank you so much, Pauline. I'm sure there's so much to take away from today's session. I loved being here, and like meeting new people, because this is the first time we have so many people who are not from India for us. So probably we'll take this relationship ahead and do some more harmony workshops, maybe.
Yes,
And I look forward to your India visit, Pauline, now that we have a connection as far as All Ladies League is concerned. Um, yeah, I think probably we can wind up the session. Marty, would you like to say something, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank Dr. Pauline for highlighting it. But I am now, and thanks to her and thanks to you and your Rotary Club there. I think other people watching this a bit later will start to think about it. And it actually led me to design a few graphics this morning about International Friendship Day. So it's great to have you guys.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for coming.
Bye all. Take good
Bye.
care. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Right. Bye.
Right. Thank you, G. Cantella. That were really lovely.
Yeah,
And,
thank you. Thank you so much.
I'll connect with you about programs that I can send to you that we can do together.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. And Joel, we should get together while I'm in Brighton.
Thank you so much. It was really wonderful.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.